So good afternoon. Welcome to the work group for Envision Athens agriculture domain. As I think everyone on the call knows, but we do have some brand new faces. So a brief introduction. Envision Athens is essentially the 20-year community and economic development strategy for Athens, Clarke County. We are founded upon and guided by the values of unity, equity, prosperity, and compassion. And those values are definitely at play and very relevant in this space of food access. I don't need to tell any of you that. I'm really honored to be with you today. Each of you are subject matter experts and advocates in your own right. So thank you for entrusting us with your time. If you're new to the Envision Athens space, I can promise you that we will start close to on time. We will end on time. So if you have a 2 p.m., there's nothing to worry about. We will have you ready for that in just a few moments. So welcome again. I'm gonna just call on you if you can share your name and affiliation, and then we'll dive into the agenda. Let's start with you, John.
Hey everybody, I'm John Morris, project coordinator at Envision Athens, work with Aaron.
I'm Richard Boone. I was one of the original founders of the food bank about 28 years ago, and I am the acting executive director right now. I'm retired from the McLean Company, and I've spent about the last 30 years here in Athens. So I've been involved. If you pick out a not-for-profit in this town, I've probably been involved in it in some way along the line, but I'm just trying to catch them all up on what was going on. And if there's any way I can support, feeding the hungry, that's what we would need to do.
So Mr. Boone, thank you so much. Those of you who have been working in Athens much time at all know that Mr. Boone is basically like a lifetime achievement award winner in all sorts of areas. So it's an honor to have you with us today, and thank you for filling in as you work to fill that vacancy. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, Savannah.
Hi everyone, I'm Savannah Farr. I am a new Community Development Fellow with Envision Athens and excited to be jumping on board and learning from all of you and working with you guys.
Welcome. Cameron.
Hi everybody, my name is Cameron Teeter. I'm with the Athens Land Trust, where I'm the Director of Community Agriculture.
Welcome. And Alexis.
Ann Alexis Bennett Alexander with the Eco Incubator. Happy to be here.
Daniel Epting.
Hey y'all, Daniel Epting, Family Connection Community School Board Member, Epting Events, and Athens Cotton Press. Looking forward to keeping on working on things with y'all.
Fantastic. Next, Eve Anthony.
Hi, I'm Eve Anthony. I'm the Executive Director of the Athens Community Council on Aging.
Welcome, Eve. Mayor Dodd.
Hello, Dodd Farrell, Mayor of the City of Winterville.
Welcome, Mayor Dodd. Maria.
Hi, Maria Ramos. I don't have the accolades you guys do. I'm with Ramos Studios, and I'm just an interested citizen and volunteer wherever I can fit in.
I love it. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Glad to have you, Maria. Samantha.
Hi, I'm Samantha Eberhard with Collective Harvest. Happy to be here.
Welcome. Leslie.
Hi, I'm Leslie Trier. I'm also with Athens Community Council on Aging and I'm working a lot with the Athens Eats Together project right now.
Fantastic. Tim Johnson.
Tim Johnson, Family Connection Communities and Schools of Athens, which includes Neighborhood Leaders Program and site coordinators in the schools.
Welcome. Mary Barrett.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Barrett Yancey. I'm the County Director for Clarke and Oconee County DFACS offices.
Good to see you again today, our second meeting for the day. Mark Madison.
Hey all, I'm Mark Madison, our Director of Community Impact at United Way of Northeast Georgia, and I also oversee 211.
Josh Podvin.
Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Josh Podvin, and I work in the Office of Service Learning at UGA.
Meredith.
Hey, sorry about that. I'm a student intern with the Athens Land Trust, and I'm working on the UNFI grant right now.
And what does that stand for?
I'm sorry, I can't remember the acronym. I'm
Oh,
working
I'm
with
sorry.
Cameron.
I'm asking because I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a small grant we were awarded. That's going to be handing out boxes of produce starting in March to people in the West Broad neighborhood, 21 families in the West Broad neighborhood. So.
Oh, great. Okay, we'll ask you to share a little bit more about that in a minute then. Thank you. Welcome, Meredith. Good to see you. Jen Thompson.
Good morning, folks. I'm Jen Thompson. I'm with UGA. I'm the director of the Sustainable Food Systems Initiative. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Jenny Galucci.
Hey, I'm Jenny. I'm a program manager for Concrete Jungle and happy to be here.
Fantastic. Anyone else? Samia?
That's Samaya. Good morning,
Samaya.
everybody. Well, good afternoon. Family Connection, Community, and Schools. I empower the Barnett Shoals Prosperity Zone. I'm a neighborhood leader.
Thank you, Samaya. Thanks for joining us today and for all of your work.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. So this is one of those days wherein the agenda seems super light and what we have to discuss is actually has a lot to it. So as some of you know well, Abundance Athens, as we came together initially, this group was very laser focused on fresh food access, especially among underserved populations in Clark County. As COVID became our reality in March of last year, we changed our focus, or rather expanded our focus to still consider fresh food access, but move it beyond that to just food access, period, working together to ensure that our neighbors, especially our most vulnerable neighbors in 2020, had access to food. And so I think all of the heavy lifters in that space are on the call today. So first of all, let me thank you for all you have done and are doing to ensure food access. I would love to start, if I could, and invite Eve and or Leslie to share an update on Athens Eats Together, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Erin. I'm going to do just kind of a broad update, but Leslie's going to do a much better job with the details than I will. Athens Eats Together, as you all know, officially began mid-September. And since then, we've served about 5,600 Athens Clark County residents. We've provided 160,000 meals. Our distributions, we're still distributing from several schools. And again, Leslie will give more specifics about that. We have our Monday, Wednesday, Friday distributions at ACCA. And then we have about 40 routes that go out where people are receiving food delivered by one of our ACCA volunteers. We are incredibly grateful for our ongoing partnership with Envision Events, who has handled so much of the logistical work of what we do. They've been fantastic. We're operating out of the cotton press. We're utilizing their vehicles to get the meals all around town. And then their amazing staff are working alongside of us and all of the things that we're doing. We're also working really closely with the food bank to secure a lot of the commodities that were going out. And then, of course, we have a great relationship with the neighborhood leaders who are helping us deliver some of the meals and connecting the folks within their zone to the Athens Eats initiative. We had a wonderful run with the Athens Farmers Market as long as they were open. One of probably the best success stories was the voucher program that was part of Athens Eats Together. And when you talk about increasing access to fresh food, the Athens Farmers Market there's no better way to do that than with our local farmers market, and Athens Farmers Market being one of those. I think, some of the feedback that we heard from the people who were utilizing the market is many of them had never been to a farmer's market before. And so this was an opportunity for them to go. They had a better feeling once they were there. They felt like it felt more inclusive. They loved being able to go and pick out their own produce and their items. So it was incredibly successful, but as we know, the market ended mid-December. So we're thankful for our continued partnership with Collective Harvest, who provides the produce for the food we're distributing. But in addition, we're offering credits to the families enrolled in Athens Eats Together, where they can go onto the Collective Harvest website and order produce that way. It still gives them the opportunity to choose some of that produce without the farmer's market. And then I'll let Leslie fill in on the details that I am quite sure that I missed. And then I'll talk a little bit, just real briefly, about a survey that we're working on as well.
All right. Well, Eve did cover, I think, the vast majority of stuff I wanted to share, but just a couple of other things to mention. Eve hit on the fact that we are continuing to work in partnership with Clark County Schools to be set up to distribute food kind of concurrently to when they're doing their school lunch distributions. As you know, kind of the state of whether school is in session, not in session, has been a little bit in flux lately. So we've had to roll with those punches, as has the school district. Right now, on a week where they are operating under normal circumstances, we are at 2 schools each day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. For the past couple of weeks, we've been at Hillsman and Winterville on Monday. I'm sorry, we're at 5 schools. We're at Clark Middle on Wednesday, and on Friday, we're at Chase Street and Whitehead Road. So that matches up with most of where they're doing their distributions. We are in contact with that office just to see what their adjusted plan is, since they're not going back next week, and are going to try to mirror that as closely as we can. The one other thing that I think didn't get mentioned that I want to is we are continuing to do Saturday distributions. And at the Saturday distributions, I think those are great if anybody is able to get out to those. We're at different locations each week. When you come on a Saturday, you can get frozen meals, you can get a commodity bag, and you can get a box of fresh produce and some dairy goods that we're getting through Georgia Grown has sent us to Athena Farms. And so that's coming in each week. So it's a lot that a lot of really good, useful stuff that we're able to get out to families. This coming Saturday, the 16th, we're going to be at Bishop Park. On the 23rd, we're going to be at the mall in front of the old JCPenney. And on the 30th, we are TBD, but it will either be here at ACCA or at the parking lot of the AMC Theater on Lexington. And we're continuing to enroll people. If you know anybody who is interested, please have them go online, fill out the form, or have them give us a call, and we'll be glad to figure out the best way to get them served.
So Leslie, quick clarifying question. You mentioned the distribution at the various schools. Is this in addition to the food, the USDA food that the school is distributing?
Yes.
Okay. I think most people might be aware of that, but just wanted to make clear that this is in addition to the school meals that families can access.
It is, and also just know we've also seen an uptick of people who come to that location not because they are getting the school food, but just because it happens to be closest to their home. So, if you know somebody that lives near one of those schools, that's the most convenient location. They do not have to be coming to get the school lunches from USDA to come through our drive-through. They can come through and just get one or the other if they'd like.
So it's just to clarify then, it's co-located, but there is a separation.
Yes,
They're
ma'am.
two different. Yes, okay. And then so only families with school-age children are eligible for the school meals.
For the school meals, but
then
anyone can come there for ours. Any Clark County resident.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And for families in need who do have school-age children, what a great way to map it out so they can kind of maximize that benefit. So 2 more questions. What have you all found in terms of the turnout on the Saturday distributions? Do you sense that you have the support in getting the information out to the people who need it? And in other words, has the turnout been at the level that you would hope?
Yeah, I think it depends on where we are in the week. A couple of weeks we've had a lot of people show. When we were at the AMC parking lot in December, we ran out of food. And on average, we give 250, we bring enough food for 250 to 350 households. The last couple of weeks have been slower, but we've seen it slower in our normal distributions as well. And the feedback that we're getting from residents is that it's the stimulus checks came. It's the beginning of the month and the stimulus checks came, so the need hasn't been as great. So we expect to see it pick back up again. But we could always use help promoting any of our distributions, but especially our Saturday distributions. We send them out to certain groups, but if we're missing people, or if you all are able to share that with the folks that you serve, that would be much appreciated. And folks anyone can come to any distribution and enroll on site. They don't need to be enrolled to come to a distribution or to receive food. It's a really quick 2-minute enrollment process, and we can take care of that on site. So please share that with the people you serve as well.
We're definitely promoting each of these distributions through our channels. And I know Tim and neighborhood leaders are doing a phenomenal job of sharing that as well. So you mentioned timing. Is it correct that the Athens Eats Together funding ends at the end of January? And so what is the near future duration of this opportunity?
So the contract with Athens Clarke County for Athens Eats Together ends the end of January. So essentially, yes, the funding ends. However, and this is at the very beginning of conversations, but there's still a large need for the program. So I do think that Athens Eats Together will extend. It won't be a permanent extension, but it will extend for another period of time in some capacity. I just don't know what that is at this point, but I do expect that there will be some level of extension. But yes, at this point, the full program does end at the end of January. And one of the things that we're working on is by the end of the week, we're going to roll out a survey to all the folks who are enrolled as well as new enrollees. And the idea of this survey is it's to evaluate Athens Eats and the impact it's had on the enrollees, but it's also to look at bigger distribution questions. So, we're going to look at the design of the program. Believe it or not, we put a lot of thought into the food that we're distributing, working alongside EPTing to make sure we had those prepared meals, making sure we had commodities, we have those prepared frozen meals, and then we also have ready to eat meals for people who don't have refrigerators or ways to heat up the meals. So the thinking was that we have something that anyone can access and use. And then we distribute complete meals, and that's important because if families don't have any other food access, the food that we have offers a complete meal. So we're going to be looking at the design. It was really important to have the delivery option for folks where transportation is a barrier, so we want to look at that. And then some of the other things that we built in just based on our experience from doing food distribution for so many years. So we're going to evaluate our design. We're going to evaluate the need. Why were people coming to the food distributions? Is this chronic food insecurity or a temporary new issue? We're going to evaluate what were the barriers in the past and did we meet those barriers? And then finally, we want to look at what is the ongoing or future need. There's a question on there related to, are they enrolled in SNAP benefits? And if they aren't, why not? Questions like that. So at the end of the survey and when we're done, we will absolutely love to share those results with this group so that you can possibly take the lessons that we've learned and apply them to the distributions you do if you are at all interested.
Absolutely, Eve. And just from seeing the rollout and the contents of what you all provided, it was incredibly thoughtful. And I really appreciate the job and how this many members on this call came together to make this happen. And Council on Aging, you guys were the cornerstone of that. And Daniel, thank you so much for helping roll this out. I'm wondering in the survey, and I think it's pretty clear from how you shared that this particular survey is intended to kind of evaluate and maybe help make determinations for Athens Eats Together and the people who utilize that program. I'm kind of wondering, does anyone on this call have sights set on surveying on a broader scale what food insecurity needs there are moving forward? As Athens Eats Together ends, as unfortunately we anticipate the moratorium on evictions ending, is there any insight on a more broad survey to assess need?
Do you mean, is anyone else doing a survey? Is that what you're asking, or?
Yeah, I think one of the functions of this group is to get a sense of, surveying is fairly common enough. And so I'm wondering, this particular tool, I think will be really useful and we'll learn a lot from it. I think one key agenda item for us today, especially as some of the funding cycles come to a close and, we embark on February and beyond, without that particular resource, wondering what gaps will then remain and how can we work together to meet those gaps. And so I think that, altogether we have a lot of anecdotal input and that has its use, but I was just wondering if anyone has sights set on any metrics that are a little bit more broad and quantitative in nature.
So a quick question that I would have is whether the folks from the Athens Wellbeing Project are doing any ongoing data collection, especially related to how COVID has affected families.
Yeah, so I know Dr. Adams is actually preparing to be on family leave in the next couple of weeks. And I think that AWP is fairly focused on preparing for their data collection for 3.0. I don't think their focus is on answering like a more time sensitive question like that. But I have been in touch with Dr. Shannon from GIS about this. So he could be another partner in helping to get some insight there.
Because the two questions that I have, and I don't actually have an answer up front, would be, what are the pieces of data that are being collected as part of people's ordinary operations that we might be able to pull together to help answer that question? And the other thing that I would say is that, I am still putting together the syllabus for my class, and I could ask my class to do it's an 8,000 level course on food systems sustainability and resilience. So it would be a good fit. But the challenge is that not having sort of all the pieces in place right now as far as like a survey and a method and an approach to make sure it was systematic and all of that other stuff, like it would probably take us a little while. And so that I wouldn't want to step into something if there were already other people kind of doing that work. Yes. So I throw that out there to say that I think we could help, but I definitely would want to connect probably with these other folks or with anybody else already doing it to see if we can.
So I could talk a little bit about what we're doing in sort of a conjunction with Athens Eats Together and some conversations that have been had. So so I'll start again, Josh, with the Office of Service Learning. And what I do is I work with a volunteer platform in part of my time called the Give Pulse platform. And back in the spring, we started using that to document some of these food distributions that were taking place. I had a graduate student and some support at that time. And then that graduate student thankfully went on and got a job, but it left me without the capacity to really track these distributions. Now we've been able to find, we have an AmeriCorps Vista in our office that can do some of this tracking for us. And so she's picking up that baton and is really sort of assessing some of the low-hanging fruit of the distributions that are already occurring and putting that into one central place. So the goal is if we have one central place for all these folks that have been relying on distributions and we can collect all that information there, so that there is an easy calendar that is updated on a frequent basis. So it's not, if details about a distribution change, that those get refreshed quickly so somebody doesn't show up seeking food and that distribution time has been changed, or the parameters like it's not serving, whichever populations maybe that target is trying to serve. So we're doing that. We're in the process of building out this calendar, utilizing the information from Athens Eats Together. Again, some of the information we've found from Tim and others that just comes across our plate, some of the food bank, the calendar that is there. So we're building that out. The other side of that is that we're anticipating having ongoing conversations with the nonprofits, agencies, churches, whoever is going to be distributing this food. And the hope is to build that out to be a conversation. So informally, I anticipate that we'll ask a series of questions to folks when we make the call to ensure that their distributions are still happening. And so we will be collecting some information with that. I've talked with Stephen Bailey and Crystal Coburn at the county, and they've identified a couple questions that they'd like us to ask. Obviously, we want to keep it short, so if folks want to tag some stuff in there, but it'll be things like, how many folks are you serving? Are you seeking out volunteers? What's, do you have growth capacity? Is this the other thing we're going to be really mindful of, is this a public distribution or is it sort of a private, like, are you at capacity and are you seeking to bring, or you don't have that capacity? So we can start to identify if they're at capacity, what things could be done to increase their capacity if we know there's a need in that community. And this, I can see Leslie and Eve probably want to weigh in, but one of the challenges when we started doing the food distribution with Athens Eats Together was that we didn't know where the gaps are. And one of the benefits of this software is it allows us to, just like a GIS map, plot the points, and then we can look around and see where these distributions are happening, and then through some follow-up conversation, know how many people are being served and whatnot there. So.
Hey, Josh,
Right.
what's your timeline for the conversations? And then we can follow up on this offline.
We're, starting those this week. So we've been pulling in the stuff that we know is occurring to try and start to build out the calendar. So there hasn't been much conversation, but we have a draft of essentially what the Vista is going to call up and the handful of questions they're going to ask.
And Eve mentioned that the survey that Athens Eats Together is going to do includes questions about SNAP access, and I'm guessing WIC as well. And as this work group knows, underutilization of both of those programs has been a significant issue in Athens. And I can tell you just from our experience that a lot of that is systemic. DFACS has really gone the extra mile during the pandemic to ease applications and renewals for SNAP and other benefits. Access to the WIC clinic is a real challenge, but I'm just putting that out there to incorporate those ongoing public programs into our evaluation of the systemic needs here.
Yeah, for those of you a little bit nearer to the conversation, there's an estimate of about $20.5 million between the eligible and enrolled participants in those programs combined. And actually, Mary Barrett and I spoke earlier today, and Tim, I'm going to be following up with you very soon to talk about some outreach opportunity through Family Connection. So yeah, that is definitely a systemic, both challenge and opportunity that if we address that effectively, I think that will shift a lot of aspects of this conversation. Josh, thank you so much for your leadership on GivePulse. And then another similar 1,000-foot view comes from Mark Madison. Mark, in your role with 211, I think you're uniquely positioned just through the ability to analyze what calls come in, and when people call, what are they calling for? And I know it's right now we're looking back at who has called, and in the past, these programs that we're describing, some of which will be coming to a close, have been an active offering. So we don't quite know, what future calls will hold. But if you wouldn't mind just to give a description so far of kind of your perception of recent needs and what you anticipate based on 211.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Erin. I really appreciate you asking the question. And what we've seen for 211, for those who don't know, and I think all of you do, it's a Health and Human Service helpline. You can call 211 and a real person answers, just talk through the challenges you might have to find your next step as far as nonprofit and other public resources goes. And you can also text 898-211, your zip code, to find the same kind of information. And I'll say one thing that has happened over the last month is texts have gone up a whole lot. We've actually promoted it a lot, but it's separate. Something that is very interesting is we were just looking through our basically 2020 wrap on 211, and we saw a massive spike in calls in March, as all of you might imagine. And then it was high, it dipped significantly in May and around the time of the first stimulus checks coming through in the summer. But then we actually saw a nearly identical spike in December. So we went from 370-ish calls in November, which was a very, very low really, to 560 in December contacts. And the biggest reason we can surmise from that is, there's lots of challenges coming around holidays. Anyway, it was much colder. So there are a number of calls about shelter that are different. So that's just a change. But additionally, people did not know if the moratorium on evictions was going to be extended or not. I think a lot of additional calls are coming in because of that. And we anticipate it to continue through January into February, especially if it remains unclear or if it remains January 31st. So there's that. We also saw increasing calls for food assistance, but we think that part of it is just, if you're calling about one thing, you've got more than one thing going on. It has helped a ton to be able to have a centralized referral in Athens Eats Together. Hugely helpful. And I think it's actually made it easier for people. They don't even necessarily, I'm always going to advocate for 211, but when you know this one thing has enough, you can go there. I think it helps a lot of people know where to funnel. And the last thing I'll say, without going through like a full list of all the people currently available, lots of folks have stepped up. There's lots of other distributions happening at churches, and we're doing call aheads and things and meeting folks instead of just having you come to a location. And Tim Johnson and their team, the neighborhood leaders, have done a great job of getting that information as it comes new. So I was just double checking that same document you most recently sent out, Tim, over your listserv, and I would only add like 2 other things we have in 211 that y'all don't have, so y'all are all over it. So I'd say just keep your eyes out on that listserv when you get those. It's a great source, but also you can always contact us at 211 for the most current information. We're using that just like you are though. So just in case you want to know.
Exactly. Yeah, so we're about at the halfway point in the meeting. I would love to just call on a couple more folks and invite you to share from your perspectives, kind of your sense of most recent and near future needs. Tim, you and Samaya are positioned in some ways similar to Josh and Mark in that you have this very geographically representative view, since the neighborhood leaders program exists across the 16 prosperity zones. So if you, and then I would love to hear from Cameron from Athens Land Trust, just maybe a 2-minute update on your view of how food access has been going and what you anticipate we need to address next. You first.
Okay. We've really relied on Council on Aging as far as getting the food boxes and our neighborhood leaders picking them up and taking them out. And we're sharing all the information about where our neighborhood leaders are delivering, because they're supporting the Athens Eats Together project. So as far as the data, the hard data, that's for the most part incorporated into ACCAs. And we certainly are also trying to keep up with the churches and others, and our neighborhood leaders are assisting many of them as well. There are certain barriers to access to just about any service related to location, transportation, etc. And again, want to reiterate how intentional and thoughtful that Eve and Leslie and their partners have been in doing the best to address those. But also when I asked Samaya to speak, because she's actually out there getting food to folks. And so Samaya.
I'm here. I just want to add for my area, like I said, I do the Barnett Shoals area. People are wanting basically more food because with the pandemic, some people are trying to stay indoors more. Others don't have transportation. A lot of applications for defects is not clear at all. So a lot of people's trying to renew their benefits have not come through. So they're relying on me with the boxes to come through. I have a large number of more people who want to sign up. You know, they're just doing what's necessary to get me the information and to try to make sure they can receive boxes on a regular basis. That's pretty much, I can see my area growing largely. I'm to the point where my truck comes into the area and I deliver the food there. So my residents are real glad about that because like I said before, between transportation and their applications with defects not going through, this food commodity box is all that they have. Some people want more food, but like you were saying before with the evictions, they don't want to accumulate so much food, you know, and can't get rid of it. But they're trying to see how that's going. But in my area, yes, the boxes are helping. And I know I'm going to increase more now that the holidays and everything is over and people are trying to get settled and find somewhere to be.
Yeah.
Samaya, your comment about the SNAP renewals is of concern because a lot of that has been automatic, as I understand it. And so could you elaborate on that a little bit, or if we don't have time now after the Zoom, you and I can talk with Mary Barrett.
Whichever way is fine, but from what I'm understanding, a lot of people have did their renewal process. Far as the SNAP benefits are concerned, the system is telling people that they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Nevertheless, their benefits are being held up because of whatever they have to do for the system. The system is not running smoothly lately. So with these food commodity boxes, this is all that those families are getting. And with children being home on a day-to-day basis with virtual learning, the food is going more faster. So they're really dependent on this. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
So let's talk more about it.
Go ahead and, yeah, if I could weigh in, because we have thankfully Mary Barrett and Clark on the call today, and I would just love to go ahead and make the connection for you all to maybe follow up online. I guarantee from personal experience that whatever issue you all are encountering, Samaya, Mary Barrett, and Denise can help you work through it if that works for the group.
Great. It does for me so far. Yes.
So Erin, I'm just going to drop mine and Denise's email in the chat box, but I would say where we're having issues, if those can get emailed to us, you know, I can connect the OFI team because typically that's what we're doing, and letting people iron out what those individual issues are, because typically there's not just one issue, it's specific to somebody's case. So there's no good blanket answer for that. So I'll just drop our emails in. Hope Denise is okay with that. I'm sure she is because she's wonderful. And then what we will do, Tim, is probably also look at a direct connection for the leaders to one of the OFI supervisors so that we can open up a link for communication directly there.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love these calls for so many reasons, but being able to have the on the ground perspective from you, Samaya, and then folks looking at it from a 1,000-foot view, both of those are really critical to understanding what our opportunities and challenges are. So thank you so much. Cameron, I would love to hear an update from the land trust regarding food access and potential gaps.
Okay. Yeah, I'll start by giving you a little more information about that grant we kind of mentioned that Meredith is helping work on. So that was actually kind of an add-on grant to a larger grant that we applied for was a USDA grant that we actually we did not get funding for that grant. So this is kind of a standalone grant. So it's UNFI is United Natural Food Institute. So they're a foundation that helps nonprofits around the areas of food access and promoting organic foods. And so this grant is actually, we're going to be providing boxes of fresh produce. We've contracted with one of our vendors, one of our farmers at our farmers market. Wim's Farm is going to be providing the food. And for 12 weeks, we'll be delivering, door to door delivering that produce to them. But it's also, we're also including, nutritional information. We're giving information about where to sign up for SNAP if they're not, where they can get their double dollars. So we also do that at our farmers market as well as the Athens farmers market, double dollars. So there's also some information component we're going to be providing for that. Since we do a lot of work in the West Broad, neighborhood, and that's where our farmers market is located, we've kind of decided that for this grant, we're going to stick to the West Broad neighborhood. We're not seeing a lot of people using their SNAP dollars, even before. Right now, we're doing our farmers market just as an online platform, so there's not a physical market. So we're not seeing people utilize that double dollars as much as we would like to see. So that really, is a way to make fresh, local produce very affordable. So we're trying to, market that better. We're hoping when we do have a physical market and we have more, neighborhood participation, that will happen. And then, we also work around the area of community gardens. So that's another way that we're trying to encourage food access. So getting people involved in that too, as well. We have about 12 gardens right now in Athens. Right now, we don't have any funding for our community garden network, but we're always just still trying to plug away, finding partners and stuff. Today, I went and picked up some starts from new gardens that have always been really, just anyone that's also involved in food access in Athens. So, as you know, we're an organization. We are also, handling some of the CARES money. So we're getting a lot of calls. We're really getting a lot of calls for emergency assistance for, during COVID, but not as much. So anyone that does contact us directly, we're really referring them to the Athens Eats platform. So everybody, so far we haven't had, anyone come back and say they weren't able to do that. So that's been a really great way to assist people right now. But yeah, we're always looking, getting that feedback, like you said, Aaron, a lot of anecdotal, talking to people, boots on the ground, like, what are their needs? How can we, increase food access in Athens? So I'm looking at more, we're kind of in the West Broad neighborhood. That's where, I have a lot of personal connections, but I'd really like to be part of this, to hear more from other areas of Athens too. So that's why I'm really happy to be here and hear what other people are hearing from other parts of Athens.
So glad to have you with us. And that work in West Broad is so important and has been a key part of that community. Cameron, one quick question. Does the lack of use of the SNAP doubling connect potentially to the fact that it pivoted to online? Was there something about moving to online that made that difficult?
We're actually, there wasn't really a real difference, even when we were in person. Okay. It had the same kind of issue. From conversations, having people that would come up to the stand and say, no, it seems like, and that's what I think what you guys are doing with Athens Eats is so neat, having an option of prepared foods. Because I think there's a lot of, people that don't have a lot of time, don't have energy, buying perishable food with their food budget, can be challenging. It's like I could stretch that dollar for processed foods or food that's going to be more perishable. So there's a lot of some of my conclusions have been around the perishability of fresh food, and sometimes so having these other options I think is a great way for many people, I think. But that's some of the education like we're trying to put out there. So like meal prep ideas so people can think about food ahead of time and freeze some of it and prepare it. So all those little issues, I think all play into why people aren't purchasing, perishable fresh foods with their food budget.
Mhm.
And Erin, if I could just add to that real quick, because that is a question that we ask at the beginning of Athens Eats about when we were first thinking about the Athens Farmers Market vouchers, was the feedback that we got from people we were serving about utilizing their SNAP benefits at the farmers market was the issue, like she said, you can stretch your dollar further, but then also having to go to more than one location to get the food that you need for the week. So transportation was a barrier. And that, again, that's for the population that we serve prior to Athens Eats, but that was part of it as well, was just the challenge of trying to get to the farmers market to do it.
Eve, just to kind of concur with that, many of you know my work before Envision Athens was directly working with folks who experience poverty and homelessness, specifically related to food access. And I worked with actually the former market manager of Athens Farmers Market, Jan, on setting access to fresh food at the farmers market, and just learned by connecting guests from Our Daily Bread to the farmers market that, kind of the prototypical situation is when someone gets their SNAP benefits with limited transportation, they might have a once a month opportunity to load up. And I think that kind of makes very clear that folks, when they have the opportunity to go shopping, are going to lean in the direction of non-perishable foods for that reason, and they hesitate around getting as much fresh food as maybe folks who have access to transportation, wherein they can, go to the store 5 to 6 times a month. And so I think that's a key barrier there.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
just
go Jen. Mhm.
the literature in general bears all of that out, and also the fact that people's shopping habits then also shift over the course of the month when money is when SNAP benefits are tight and people are getting a monthly benefit. So near the beginning, people buy a lot of food, a lot of non-perishable stuff that might be able to last throughout the month, along with some fresh fruits and vegetables, which then run out, and near the end of the month, when there's less left available, then less expensive non-perishable foods dominate. And that's part of the reason for programs like the FarmRx and FVRX program operating on a weekly basis, is to try to help shift from that kind of monthly spending arc to allow people to get fresh fruits and vegetables at the end of that benefit period.
Mm-hmm. So I think the great news is, I think everyone who has spoken has in some way iterated what a blessing it has been that the Athens Eats Together provision and the way that it's been organized has really increased ease of access for people, having this kind of very clear communication and getting a lot of food at a single point or kind of at a hub has been really helpful. And I hate to say this, but I think the role of Envision Athens is to celebrate and also get real about what's next. So that's great news. But as many times as that program has been mentioned, the fact that the funding is coming to a close, as important as that has been, unfortunately for me, the other side of that coin, is that might indicate the level of gap or lack of access that might be just around the corner. So I think one other organization that is with us today that does a tremendous job of sourcing various food pantries is the Northeast Georgia Food Bank. So we send our best wishes to Chuck Tony as he moves on to the next opportunity. Mr. Richard Boone is there with that organization today. Mr. Boone, if you're still with us, not to put you on the spot, but if there's anything that you can share with us from the food bank perspective about, 3 weeks from now, as our distributions through Athens Eats Together come to a close, how can folks easily connect to the Northeast Georgia Food Bank supported food pantries in Clark County?
You're muted, Richard. You're still muted.
Richard, if you look in the bottom left of the Zoom box, there should be there you go. Oh, you unmuted and then you muted back again, I think.
Y'all, the suspense is killing me.
Okay, lip read and Eve, go. Also, if you hold down the space bar.
He's about to going to get help.
Calling him back.
While he's going to get help, you know, he was being modest when he said he was on the founding board of the Northeast Georgia Food Bank. He was crucial to both establishing and sustaining it from the beginning. So just throw that out there while he's getting some TA.
All right,
Oh, he's unmuted now.
Hey, technology great when someone else does it. One thing right now that I'm extremely pleased with, and this is my third week back, I rolled off the board and I was working on some other projects. So since I was one of the founders of the food bank, I stay close to it, but I don't stay as close as I have in the past. One thing I'm pleased with is we do have food. And right now what we're doing is we're doing mobile pantries. We got one coming, as I was saying, on Wednesday. It'll be off of Chase Street behind Circle K on Prince Avenue. We'll be passing out boxes of food. We do a 1 to 2 to 3 on weekends. We did one in the mountains this past Saturday where we did a couple of hundred families. So what we got is one thing, anytime you need support as far as food, we do have food in the house.
And Mr. Boone, do you have any advice for folks? And I'm happy to follow up with some resources as well in terms of the food pantries or the partners right now that are offering either the most regular distributions or the largest amounts of food. So given what we've just discussed, people are more likely to benefit from going to a pantry where they can get a lot of food at a time. So are there some kind of high volume distributions that you can point us to?
We can certainly get, if you want to go through you, Aaron, we'll get you a list of all the agencies we was involved with. Of course, we cover 14 counties. Sure. We can do that. But I'll tell you one thing, the mobile pantries are really being effective right now because we're doing during the week, we do almost every weekend, we do at least one and sometimes 3. We do it in other counties. We just did one in Oglethorpe County too. So the mobile pantries works real well, but we can get you a list of the partner agencies with the food bank.
That would be great.
We're starting something else, and I don't know how familiar y'all are with Lydia's Place.
Lydia's Place?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something came up last week. I've been involved with Lydia's Place since it started also. It came last week. We had some students come out that needed food. And they just drove out in the car. They had a place to stay. They didn't have a kitchen. They just didn't have any food, didn't have any money, which kind of brought my antenna up. Maybe that was an area it wasn't being serviced by us. I know Lydia's Place does because I'm part of it. So we're having a meeting tomorrow that we're going to try to get together with collaboration between the two to start helping students. People that are not familiar with, their students going to university, living in their cars. It's all over the board out there right now. So what we're going to do, we're going to start addressing that one. But anytime there's someone needs food, if you contact the food bank, we can figure out some way to tell you where to go or where we got a mobile pantry or whatever we need to do to help you. Mm-hmm. Last year we did, well, it's exactly 13,221,339 pounds of food out of the building. So we got food. And we started out, I could deliver most of it in my car.
I appreciate it. Mr. Boone, thank you so much. And if whatever you send to me, I'm happy to follow up and share with this group. So thank you, sir.
Well, you know, some of the things y'all been mentioning, I'm not familiar with some of the money that's running out. I hate to hear it because people's got enough problems already. And what's bad about it, not only do they lose the financial part of it, but it's just more frustration. The people are already frustrated enough and nothing, you know, what is it, food, water, and shelter? A country like ours should be able to supply those three items. We really should. So if y'all just let us know at the food bank, and I'll be around. I'm gonna be coming back more even after we file an executive director. I'm gonna stay closer to it now than I have in the past. I'll be in town more, but so just let me know.
Appreciate it so much. And we'll be preparing to close out here in just a minute. As we do that, I would love to get thoughts on the next meeting time. Based on all that we have going on, I can't imagine us waiting too long before coming back together again. Looking at a few weeks out, I'm wondering if potentially February 16th at 1 p.m. might work. If we follow kind of our pattern, that would be the 15th. That is President's Day. And that is also a time when I know Jerry Shannon was not able to join. So I'm asking the group just now if February 16th, which is a Tuesday at 1 p.m. would work for the majority of us before we sign off. Looking for the signals.
Okay with me.
Thumbs up, head nods. Okay.
Hey, Aaron.
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to chime in, Richard, when you were talking. One of the cool things, I thought about it, Cameron, with y'all with the gardens, and as I'm hearing food, and then someone mentioned frozen foods. So with the Food Bank of North Georgia up in Clayton, they've got a commercial kitchen that you can rent and produce food out of, labeled, certified. I think y'all have an ag department or USDA stamp up there.
Yes, we do.
So they've also got the large capacity freezer space, so you can rent by the pallet from up there. So you're also, one, you're supporting your farmers that have surplus. Two, you're supporting the Food Bank of North Georgia by renting some freezer space up there from James is amazing up there. Great for tours. I absolutely love it. So if anybody wants to go, just shoot me a line. I might just drive up there with you again also. I've taken about 5 groups up there in the last 2.5 years since we've been working with them. So there's just a couple ideas as y'all are growing the entrepreneurs and the fresh produce. They got an IQF machine. So like say you had a bunch of peas and you wanted to flash freeze them so that they have a longer storage life. And they got 2 pallets one time of lentils, and it's hard to get rid of that many dry lentils. So opportunities though to be creative in working with the inventory that they have in-house and find a way that it works with your organization if you're registered with them. So strongly recommend reaching out on that. And then also, Richard, would you like this group to look for those referrals for a new executive director, or y'all have that handled? Or
You never have it handled until you get someone on the payroll, right?
That's the way I figured. I was putting on a team.
If you got someone you want to refer, we're open for it, that's for sure.
Thanks so much. So as we close out for the day, let me thank you so much for all the good and thoughtful work that you're doing. And I'm going to take liberties to do 2 advertisements. One is this is a perfect day for dog lick soup, and no one makes a better dog lick soup than Daniel Epting and his family. So if you haven't checked out Good Story Foods, you've got to do it. No, seriously, I'm sitting here and my feet are really cold and I'm like, what would take care of that? Dog lick soup. And then if you guys will, some of you may be more into social media than others, but Envision Athens is launching this 2021 as the year of the good neighbor. And we are really excited about what this means and the opportunity that affords for us to continue investing in this community, celebrate the good, acknowledge where we need to get better. So if you will, if you are on social, please check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Follow us, take the 30-day challenge. There are prizes. I'm really excited about doing all we can to uplift the good and improve what needs to improve this year.
One thing, everybody, if you have someone that needs food, please refer them to the Food Bank of Northeast Georgia. And Daniel, I appreciate the comments you made.
Yeah, me too, Daniel. Thank you. I knew about the kitchen. I didn't know about the storage. So those are some good ideas.
We got the biggest freezer in North Georgia.
Great. We got some farmers that could use it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, guys, we will send out notes. By the way, if you are on the call today but didn't receive the invite, please drop your email address in the chat box so we can be sure you're included in the follow-up with the meeting notes. And we will see you here, same virtual place on February 16th, which is a Tuesday.